question I get the most is, wow, Rebecca, this program is great. We would love to use it on other populations. Maybe kids that have divorced parents, maybe they've lost a parent, maybe a kid with other mental health needs, maybe a child that has emotional disturbances, and even children on the autism spectrum. Like, we've gotten all of this positive feedback that this program would be great for other kids. And we get that. But our program, if you're going to run a Stable Moments program, you're going to become a location and you're going to do it the way that we say, part of the license agreement is that you serve children with early developmental trauma. That is who this program was created for. So yes, children that have been adopted or in foster care automatically go into that early developmental trauma because they have had abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Even if they were adopted at birth, they still have that feeling of abandonment. So that is who this program is for. And this is why we don't have you serve other people. Because kids that have had early developmental trauma, meaning that they've had abuse, neglect, abandonment, typically complex trauma, which means it happens over and over and over again during their core years of development. Their brain is different, okay? They haven't had time to create the brain to make the healthy choices, to develop the social and emotional skills, to develop the rational, the logical skills, the cognitive skills that we need to make good choices and to believe that they matter, okay? So, taking a kid that has lost their parents in a car accident. They have heavy grief, right? The approach for them would not necessarily be the same. In fact, it wouldn't be the same. We can't train mentors that they need to approach these kids in this very specific way that deals with a child that has not had the nurturing that they need to develop their brain appropriately to make good choices and believe that they matter. Okay, so to approach a child that had loving parents, has a fully developed brain, has all of the social emotional skills, has all of the cognitive and rational, at least they have a brain that would support all of that. And then to use our approach, it's not the same thing, because those kids had all the nurturing, had all the development, hit all the milestones, right? Because they had loving parents and then something bad happened to them. So they have more resilience, and we may approach them in a different way. A kid that is diagnosed bipolar or has anger issues or impulsivity issues, but they're not rooted in early developmental trauma, meaning they're just something that happened because of a mental health issue or because of a parenting issue or because of a behavioral issue, to come at those children like from the approach that we know that they need to rebuild portions of their brain through our approach of being playful and empathetic and accepting and curious, it doesn't do the child a service, because maybe we need a different approach. And listen, we take an individualized approach with every single kid in the program, right? They all get an individualized plan of care. But they all are coming with an approach that is used with children for early developmental trauma. If we take that approach and we just say, okay, well, we're just going to apply it to everyone, it's not doing a service to the kids that you're serving that don't have early developmental trauma. It's not doing a service to the mentors who have gone through a long training on early developmental trauma. And it doesn't do a service to the kids, because the last thing I would want as a kid that had loving parents, or at least got my needs met in my first 5 years, and then something happened, or I'm having behavioral issues, or I'm having mental health issues, but I have I got my needs met in the beginning, and somebody approaches me in a way that I didn't, like, they don't get me. We're doing a disservice, okay? So, do I believe that our activities and doing an individualized plan of care and most of our approach would be helpful for all kids? Yeah, but we totally dilute it if we start saying, well, Stable Moments, addresses all kids with all types of trauma and all. It's not true. We don't. I'm not a specialist in that. We're not great at all things. We're really, really good at a population that has a crisis happening. A population that is underserved and needs services so much. So I'm going to stay true to the population we serve. There are enough kids, right? It's not like, well, there's not enough of those, so we need to go out and find other kids. There are enough kids to serve. So I'm going to stay true to that so that mentors can get trained to approach these kids in a trauma-informed, therapeutic way that speaks directly to early developmental or complex trauma. Okay? And we are building their worth. We're building back. We're giving them the opportunity to build back portions of their brain that were not able to be built during their core years of development. It's just very different than giving them some coping skills to deal with their mental illness or helping them with behavioral issues, right? We are like building back brains, which so cool. Okay, so do I think that our program could be used and could be helpful? I think that our activities, our model, a lot of it could be used. So, do I have locations that use our activities for other populations? Yes, I do, but they don't call it a Stable Moments program. So anybody can buy our activities online. They can make their own mentoring program, buy the book and figure out how to do a mentoring program, get the activities and use them. They'll be great. And then you can just say, hey, it's Harley's Ranch mentoring program. And you use some of our philosophy, but you train your mentors in a way that deals with the population that you deal with. But I think that if you're going to deal with kids with behavioral issues, you should have a mentor training on behavioral issues and how that's different. If you train mentors to deal with kids that have parents that have died, then you should have a whole mentor training just on grief and how you approach those kids. This isn't a willy-nilly thing. We're not just matching up mentors because mentors are great. Like, we are matching up mentors and giving them a roadmap and a very clear approach to use with the population and telling them why that approach matters. Okay? So if you're going to do different populations, then you need to break down a mentor training for those mentors that is specific to that population. And then you're not going to call it a Stable Moments program. At that point, you've developed your own program and you can just run with it. Okay? You can learn what you learn from my program and then create your own thing. But if you're going to be a location and you're going to call it a Stable Moments program, then you are going to serve children with early developmental trauma. Now, we have some locations that are locations, and they call their Stable Moments program their Stable Moments program, but they also want to do just like a general mentoring program for all kids, and they use some of our activities, but that program has a very different population, a different training cycle, how the mentors are selected and all of that is different, and they call them two different things. So there's still a location, but your Stable Moments program is very specific, and your other program should be very specific for that population. And the biggest thing is this: if you're going to do that, it comes down to clarity. Make sure your mentor knows who they're serving, why they're serving them, and how they're serving them. Okay? It shouldn't be like, I don't know, I kind of do this mentorship thing. The whole point of all of the structure and all of the training for this was so that mentors knew what they were doing. They got it. They got what these kids experienced. They understood why their approach was important. Okay, so that's my spiel. And remember, I built every single element of this because I realized, we need to get even tighter. We need to have activities. We need to have color coding. We need to have plans of care. We need to have a training. We need to teach these mentors about early developmental trauma. We need to do all of these elements were brought in not because I thought they were a good idea, because I realized we needed them. So for me to start cutting pieces off of something that I knew the research of doing, the trial and error told me that I needed to do that, wouldn't serve anyone. So I know we all want to serve everyone, and we all think things would be nice for everyone, but inclusion is not always the answer. Exclusion, exclusivity, a program that is made for someone creates belonging, creates healing, very specialized healing, because it's created for you. If you got breast cancer, you wouldn't want to go to a cancer institute that's very good at a lot of different cancers. You would want to go to the expert in breast cancer. Okay? Nothing against these institutes that want to do everything, but the one that's focused is the one that you're going to want to show up at and have a sense of belonging to. Hope that makes sense. If you have any other questions, you can always ask me, but that is our most asked question is, do you have to serve kids with early developmental trauma, and can we serve other populations? And my simple answer is yes. You have to serve children with early developmental trauma, and no, we don't serve children outside of that under the Stable Moments brand.